Welcome to My Life. I'm John Ochins, and we're pleased to have Oxford resident Mickey Hiatt with us today. Welcome, Mick.
Glad to be here.
Mickey has lived in Oxford for over 30 years. He has played at the Indianwood Golf and Country Club for over 40 years. He was president of Quality Fastener for about 24 years and still works for them in another capacity right now. And he has some terrific stories to share with us. So welcome, Mickey. I'm glad that you're here.
Good, John.
Tell us, what are you doing with Quality Fastener these days?
Well, I sold it to my brother, Jim Hiatt, and I was a companion of Red Voikis that had Rob's place, and her son, John Shepard, is partners with my brother, and they bought me out. They're buying me out.
Right.
So, and they're in the process. I sold them the building. I sold everything. I'm rounding third, heading for home, trying to get rid of.
So are you concentrating more on golf right now or on Quality Fastener?
Actually, I got three things. I got the Rotary Club. It's important to keep growing. And then we got Quality Fastener. My brother and John are doing a wonderful job growing it. So I don't have to worry about it. I do the book work there. I do all the payables, receivables, that kind of stuff. That's what I do.
Does Quality pretty much do business nationally? Or?
No, we're pretty much probably within a 100-mile radius, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're... You know, when I had another business called PT Standard Parts Company, and that was 99% all automotive, and it was very large. We had 5 or 6 branches everywhere. But, you know, during the 80s, things crashed and burned, and they started CPC, BOC, and they started regional purchasing, and they started all kinds of things, and businesses were going down, and we went from like a $20 million company to like a $7 million company.
Wow.
And that just was too much to go. So. Yeah. 1988, we shut down that business, and as I said, Bob Sweeney came to me and wanted to know what I was going to do, which was my brother-in-law at the time. And I said, you know, I don't have any idea. And he said, boy, you know, I got some money. We should start a business. So I said, okay. So then we started Quality Fastener in 1988. Right. And Bob became my partner, and we worked it for a while, and he was an industrial painter, and he says, you know, I can make more money painting. So anyway, I kept the business going, and Bob Warnicki from Warnicki Tool, I told him what we were going to do, and he said, I'll build you a building. So he built me a building out on Metamore Road in Oxford, and I rented from him for 10 years until I bought the building we're in now at Adventure Lane, which is right off of Oakwood Road.
And I know the business is called Quality Fastener, yeah. but you sell a lot of tools and things.
We sell a lot of tools. We sell a lot of it's an industrial supply. We have anything from toilet paper to bolts and nuts. I mean, janitorial supplies, springs, everything. There's 370,000 different items we handle.
But it's more than just companies that buy from you. Individuals can buy from you.
Individuals can come in. Yes, we have a customer service there that they'll take care of any customers that need. You know, especially when you're looking for a boulder nut for something you can't find. Some of the stuff are special for items that, you know, are just made for that item. But for the most part, we will have it in stock.
Well, let's talk about Mickey Hiatt.
Okay.
Where were you born, Mickey?
I was born in Detroit. We lived on Woodmere in Detroit by the Woodmere Cemetery, and until I was in first grade, went to St. Gabriel's, and then we moved to Royal Oak in probably the 50s, at 51, and went to Shrine till the 6th grade, actually the 5th grade. And we moved out here to Lake Orion in 1957, where we joined St. Joseph. When I went to St. Joseph, I graduated from St. Joseph in 59.
All right, so you're a good Catholic boy. Like me, you endured the nuns.
I did. Mother Herman. Everybody remembers Mother Herman.
That was back in the days when they had yardsticks and they could use them, right?
Yes, right. But, you know, they still should be able to do that. I think we'd have a better society today.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
I have 7 brothers and sisters, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were your folks born in Detroit, or where did
yes,
they
come
were.
From? Yes, they were. My father was born in Detroit. My mother was born in Detroit, yeah.
Just out of curiosity, did you ever take a look at your ancestry and see what generation was first here in this country?
No, not really. Never have.
Did you know your grandparents?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
your
yeah.
great-grandparents?
No, they had pictures of them, but I knew my grandparents. Yeah, we had. I didn't. My mother's father died when I was born in 1945. So So I didn't know him, but I knew her mother, and she lived with us for some years. And my dad and my grandmother were alive, and they both died in early 50s, 58.
So you started grade school in what city?
Royal Oak.
In Royal Oak.
Mm-hmm.
And
Shrine
what
of the
grade?
Little Flower.
The Shrine of the Little Flower.
On Woodward.
And what grade were you in when you made your next move?
We moved to Lake Orion when I was in the 6th grade. And I
Okay.
went to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at St. Joe's, and I graduated. I graduated Lake Orion in '63. And
What was your favorite thing to do in grade school in Lake Orion? Do you remember?
well, there was no, there was like not today. You have all these sport things. We just went out, played catch, and played with baseballs and stuff. It was pretty much all we did.
Things were a lot different. back
Oh
then,
yeah,
weren't they?
yeah.
Were your parents both Catholic?
Oh yeah,
Were they?
yeah.
Were they pretty strict with you?
Oh, they were perfect. Yeah, they were fine.
Did they pretty much make sure you had your sights on the right goals as far as
Pretty
what
much,
to do in
yeah.
life?
Oh yeah. They did for all the kids. So.
Did
We
you
were
play?
the top three. We were my sister, my brother Leo, my sister Jeannie, my brother Leo, and myself were we call the big three. Then they had two more. Then they had the three more later. So yeah.
I'm sorry. Where did you fall in the line?
I'm number three.
You were the third. Okay, I see. You went to Lake Orion in high school, didn't you? Graduated in the class of '63, I
Right.
believe you said. Did you play any sports?
I did. I played football. I was co-captain of the football team in our senior year with Denny Callison, my friend, and him and we were both linemen, which is kind of unusual to be captains of the team. We normally have quarterbacks or somebody, but my friend Denny Callison and myself, we ended up being co-captains of the football team in '63. So.
In the '60s, there was a lot of stuff going on in the world. What kind of things were going through your mind about your future back then?
Well, when I was a young lad, my dad used to take me to work in a place called PT Standard Parts Company. It was in Pontiac.
Right.
And I used to go there and on Saturdays with my dad, and I would do. I was amazed with all the fasteners that there were in this business, And
And that was his company.
that was
is
that was
correct?
that was my uncle and my dad's company. Yeah. And so I'd go there to work, and I was 10 years old. I'd package bolts and do certain things, and the foreman of the warehouse would help me, show me what to do. And I'd just do little odd jobs for some Coca-Cola, a little nickel bottle of Coca-Cola.
And you were in high school at this point.
I was in 10th grade. I
10th
mean, I was 10 years old,
10 years
11,
old.
12 years old, yeah. So I got they kind of instilled in me an industrial supply. You have to be born in this business. Most of the people I know have been in this business through family businesses, and all my brothers are still in this industrial business. So when I was in high school, I just dreamed about working at PT Standard. That was my whole goal. That was my
So that was
whole
okay
life.
with you?
Oh, I looked forward to that. I wanted that more than anything in the world. And I finally got the job, and I got out of high school in '63. I started working that summer at PT Standard, and I drove truck and worked the warehouse. And then when I was 20 years old, I got to be foreman of the warehouse, which was really quite a deal for me. I really enjoyed that, and I just finally got my goal. Well, then on my 21st birthday, the Army come knocking on my door and says, Mickey, you look like you're having so much fun here. We need to pull you out and take you away for a couple of years. So I got drafted, and I went in the Army.
And I know you've got some good stories to tell about that, but we've got to take a break right
Okay.
now. So stick around, Mick, because
Okay.
we're going to be right back.
Hi everyone. Don't forget you can purchase DVDs of your favorite shows from OCTV, whether it's Minutes by Minute, Our Community Access, or Connie's Kitchen. Just call the station. Our number is 248-628-9658. And enjoy watching all of our shows on OCTV.
We're back here with Mickey Hiatt on My Life. Mickey, you were just starting to tell us about when the Army came knocking at your door
Yeah.
back in the '60s.
Well,
But actually, what year would that have been?
1966, April.
So you were out of high school about 3 years
Yeah.
before that happened, weren't you?
I was. And I was working at PT and very happy. But and when I got my letter to go in, and And so my mother was kind of funny. She said, "Oh, at least you'll get rid of your friends." You know, I had some friends we hung around with, you know, and she, at least they all got drafted with me too. So I said, "They're all coming with me, Mom." So, but anyhow, the Army. I'm so glad that happened to me, because, you know, you're at that age of 20 and you think you got the world where, you know, your perspective. Sure. When that pulled me out of Oxford, that really opened up my eyes for more of the world and more of everything. And I think that the draft really should come back. I mean, I think these kids are walking around today, 18, 19, 20 years old, that don't have, at least I knew what I want to do. They don't have a clue what they want to do. So they just do drugs, they do this, they do that, and suicides, and everything else just keeps multiplying, because they don't have a clue where to go. And I think this Army really helped me become a man's man.
The service has a way of fixating people on goals and teamwork, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And well, you know, and the football I had for 3 years, I played at Lake Orion. It's the same thing you get in the Army. But it's all structured, and you know, it's kind of funny, because when we got drafted in '66, they were taking kids from Chicago, the ones that were in trouble, and most of all the youth in trouble, whether it be Hispanic or black or whatever, they would get in the Army. So we're in there with thugs, because they would be drafted. You know, they get in trouble, they're being drafted. Yeah. So they get in there, and it's funny, because they're all supposed to be these big shots, you know, and when they cut your hair off, and they put that OD green uniform on you, and everybody's the same, they just lost all that big shot stuff. You know, they don't have the gold around their necks. They don't have all this hair. They're all like us. And then they tear you down, they build you back up, which is the good part. And if you were really bad in Detroit or Chicago, whatever, I mean, they would weed you out, throw you out, and get rid of you. I mean,
let me ask you something. Just before the draft came into the picture, did you have any thoughts of going to college or anything like that?
No. No, I went to night school. I went to Pontiac Business Business Institute at nights for just bookkeeping. So, you know, that's the only thing I ever did. And of course, in our type of business, you get to go to factories and see how things are made, and industrial supplies. You get to go to all the, you know, fastener places and cutting tool places and see how things are. So you get an education along with it.
Right. So, 1966, you were drafted?
Yeah.
Where did you have to go for your training?
Went to Fort Knox, Kentucky.
And what did you think they were going to do with you?
Well, I knew I was going to go to Vietnam, because when you're drafted, you're gone.
Everybody kind of assumed that,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So the good part of it is that we had orders to go home for the weekend, say goodbye, because we're going to Nam. They're shipping out our 78th Transportation Company, and we're going to Vietnam. Well, and in the meantime, that week, de Gaulle threw Americans out of France. They were part of NATO, and NATO, they got France. De Gaulle said, "You're out of here, and you have to be out of here by March 29, 1967. That's the only. There's no more vehicles allowed in France and anything." So we had to move all of France out into Germany. So that's what we did, and we drove truck 7 nights a week.
Through the jungles of France and
Through all the jungles of France. Well, you know, the neat part about it, we drove 360 miles every night, 7 nights a week. And then when we got into your billets, you had to sign a sheet what time you got up. And 8 hours later, they woke you up and you're back on the truck. And it went like that for 7 days a week. Of course, the GIs, we get everybody together, you know, we all have fun. So, I mean, it's just not a matter, you know, probably people don't know, back in the 60s, they had vending machines back in France, you know, and they had places to go into. Well, they sold beer in these vending machines. So we'd have a pop, we'd have a beer, and we'd be driving our trucks and tractor trailers. And it was just kind of there'd be 2 guys driving, so we'd sing songs and drive 360 miles every night. We always, GIs would always have fun.
So here you are. You were originally thinking you were going to be fighting in the jungles of Vietnam.
Right.
But instead you end up driving a truck back and forth between France and Germany.
Right.
What did you make of all this?
I
mean, it had to be a pleasant surprise.
And
it had to be
well,
great.
You know, when I got my orders would go to Germany for a month's training and then be in France. You know, and it was very interesting. You got all the mountains to go through. There's winters over there. You got to drive to the mountains. You got to drive. So the neat part about our trucks, they're international cab overs, and they were all synchronized transmission. Well, the French people don't have synchronized transmissions. So as we're driving up Mount Ligny, we're driving up these mountains, we're blowing them off the road, see? So when we get to the top of the mountain and we start coming down that mountain, well, we're being a little cautious. They just freewheel it and they just blow you off the road going down the hill. So we kind of had you got to remember there's 120 trucks out there, and we all kicked off like 7-8 minutes apart, so we're all not in a caravan. And we had to drive at night because the French government wouldn't allow us to drive during the daytime.
Really?
We had to do everything at night. So we left at dawn and got back at dusk.
But here you were, traveling between France and Germany. There was no war going on there. You were not being threatened by anybody there.
The only wars we really had, the other truck drivers, see, the government trucks all had 6 lights on the top, and they knew who we were. So they would come down the road and they'd come over and they'd smash our mirrors. So we had a little tug of war. Now you got to put yourself in a position. These towns are only as wide as the truck. When you're going into France and you go down these small towns, our mirrors would darn near touch both buildings, and people have to go in. They have walk-ins, so traffic can go through there. They have to get off the street and go into these doorways, so we can get through. Now you're halfway through this town, and here's a French rig coming your way. One of you is going to have to back up, and it wasn't going to be us. So we had that little tug of war, and they just know we're crazy Americans, so they backed up.
But at least you didn't have a sniper
We did
with
not
you
have
in
a
your
sniper,
sights.
and we did not have any guns. But it was just, and every now and then it would happen. I mean, it wouldn't happen every day, but it happened frequently.
So how long were you there?
I was in. We were in France. Well, from till March 20th, 1967. Then I went back to Germany.
Okay, so it was a few months that you were there, is that right?
Oh yeah, we were there for 6 months anyway.
Okay, so you actually were living in France during that time?
Yeah, yep.
And then you went back to Germany, and what did you do there?
I ended up being dispatcher for the 78 Transportation Company in Bremerhaven, Germany, which is the far northern port. It's the farthest north you can go, and it's a big Bremen, Germany, and Bremerhaven. They're all in that area. It's all northern Germany. It was all beautiful, It was a nice.
Did you spend the rest of your tour there?
I did. I did.
What would you say was the most memorable thing that happened to you during that time? All together in the service.
other than not going and not going, I don't just meeting people. I had a lot of friends. And the funny part, everybody gets this big feel. When we get out of the Army, we get this money. Well, I used all my vacation time. They give you 30 days a year, and everybody else, they didn't use theirs. So when they got back, when they got out of the Army, they were getting like $1,100, $1,200 for their time. I owed the government $240 because I took all the vacation. I flew home from Germany one time, and there's another part of the story. When I flew into Detroit, the riots were going on in Detroit.
Okay, we got to take a break right now, but we're going to pick up on that. I have some memories of that too. We'll be right back.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Hogan, host of a new show called Let's Get Strolling. And what I do is I interview local businesses and interesting and fun people, sometimes event planners, sometimes the residents of Oxford. Maybe next time it could be you. Join me next time on OCTV on Let's Get Strolling.
We're here with Mickey Hiatt, talking about your last days in the service of our country, Mickey, during Vietnam. What year did you get out of the Army?
I got out in March of '68.
March of '68.
Yeah.
Okay, now, before we took our break, you started to mention getting home during.
Well, I said I took all my leave. You're given 30 days a year, so I had 60 days, and I took like 63. So I owed the government money when I got out. But anyways, when I got home on leave from Germany, I get into Detroit airport, and there's more Army than I left. When I was overseas, I didn't see this many people in the Army. And they all had their guns. I mean, it was like, so the riots were going on in Detroit.
Yeah.
So I get to Pontiac, and this guy that had taken my job at PT Standard, I got to meet him, and his name was Gordy Scott, and he ended up being my partner at Quality. He died 8 or 9 years ago now. But he ended up being my partner. We were friends for a long time. And then And then we come out, there was no place to get a drink, couldn't buy any liquor. So he said, well, I know what we can do. We can go to Lapeer. So we ended up going to Lapeer, got a couple bottles, a 6-pack of beer, and went back to his place and sat there and had a great time. So, but it was kind of funny to see all the Army when you come home for leave, and it was just loaded with Army everywhere.
Was it tough for you to get back into the swing of things after you got out?
No, not really. In fact, I look forward to it. I got my job back at PT Standard. I worked my way into what they call inside sales. So I worked myself. I was 24 years old, and I worked inside sales, and I worked that for a lot of years.
Now, this was still the company that your grandfather
My grandfather and my
had?
dad had, right.
Okay.
My dad and my uncle.
When did your grandfather start that business?
1945.
1945.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, tell us more about what you were doing then with PT.
Oh, I just learned the ropes. You learn inside sales. You take calls. You write up orders. You buy stuff. I mean, industrial supplies. So you're running a company. And there were like 6 or 7 of us doing that.
And right around that time, how old were you?
I was 24.
Okay.
Yep, 23, 24.
And it was pretty close to that time that you met your first wife. Right?
Yes, I met Leanne, and I met her, and actually her sister worked for the company. And I met her, and she had 3 children, and they were 7, 5, and 2. And we got married about 6 or 8 months. We got married actually 1969, January 31st, New Year's Eve, 1969. That's when we got married. So it was a great time,
And
good run.
You two also had a daughter?
Yes, we had a
together?
daughter, Marie.
Okay, very good.
And all the kids are doing excellent. I'm very proud of every one of them. And they're proud of me, so we have a great family.
Great. Tell us more about PT Standard.
Well, PT Standard grew very large. You have to be a $20 million a year company. And then the rug came out back in the probably early 80s, 84, 85, and the rug came out and things just started falling apart. And General Motors was going to CPC, BOC, and they were going what they called purchasing. They combined all their purchasing into one group, and it just really made everything a huge mess for all the suppliers.
By that, did you mean that they picked out certain companies
Absolutely.
that they were going to deal with all the time?
And you had to quote,
Right.
And that's fine, but we could have done. But then you got people within the areas, if they would follow the rules, which nobody follows the rules, if they're supposed to buy all these fasteners from you, well, if they don't like you, they'll call it something else and they'll buy something else. So they kind of mimic what they're buying, and they don't buy from the fastener contract. So anyway, it was just a mess. And the company, like I said, went from $20 million down to about $8 million, and the fall was just too much to hang on to. We had enough money we paid our bills, and we just dissolved the company.
Right.
And then that's when I started I started Quality Fastener in '88.
Other than don't lose money, was there another lesson you felt you learned from that experience
crash?
business?
Well, I did. We were 99% automotive. We had Ford, Chrysler, General Motors, mostly General Motors. And when I started Quality Fastener, I wanted no automotive. I wanted nothing but small, medium-sized accounts, and that's what I learned. And that's how we built Quality, and we're still that way. We're dealing right now with American Axle. They're here in town. It's called MSP. American Axle owns them. So we do automotive. If automotive wants us, we're happy to do with them. But that's how that works. But we're still a small, medium-sized company.
Okay, tell us, let's backtrack a little bit again and tell us about, well, first of all, you mentioned to me before we sat down for our interview that when you dissolved PT, you were able to get everybody jobs and so on.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that. Yeah.
Well, it was a wind down. We auctioned everything off, and the auction was there. Of course, your government's sitting there; they want their tax money and all that.
Sure.
So we divide the money up amongst everybody. And then when we started, where was I? I got everybody jobs, and when my brother-in-law Bob Sweeney came up to me, and they asked me if this is a good business. I have some money. Can we start another business? And I said, well,
Now, PT was in Pontiac.
yeah, I was
right?
in Pontiac,
Okay.
right. So I told him, I said, well, I didn't have anything else to do, so I said, we can get started. So we did, and
You were living in Lake Orion at this
I
time?
was living in Oxford
In
at
Oxford.
this time. Yeah. And 1988, I was in Oxford, and so we got that going. And then Bob Warnicke from Warnicke Tool, I told him we're looking for a place to rent, and he said, I'll build you a place. So he built us a place on Metamora Road, and that's what we did. Started there, and we bought our place where we're at now on Adventure Lane, which is right off Oakwood and 24.
How long have you been there?
2000, so 15 years.
Well, so tell me again, what types of clientele you decided you wanted to zero in on?
Well,
right
it'd
from
be
the start?
small, medium tool and die shops like Warnicke Tool. All your shops here, actually Oxford Cashmere. You got you had detail boring. You had some.
So you sell precision instruments then, right?
Precision drills, fasteners of all kinds. Yes, oils and lubricants and all that, everything.
When did you get involved with Indian Wood Country Club?
Well, when my family moved here in 1957, my father, actually we bought the land from Carl Rubin, which owned Indian Wood, and my dad and him became friends, and he says, there's a piece of property right here, it's on the Comus, and so my dad said great, and he built a house there. So we joined Indian Wood.
Was your dad a golfer?
He was an entertainer. He golfed a little bit. He wasn't. He was probably as good as I am. But I've never done golf for the golf. I've done golf to be with people and entertain and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fun kind of golfer, not a serious golfer. So
with Quality Fastener, how did you know enough was enough as far as being president was concerned?
Well, when I was getting when you get down to the nitty gritty, and really the guy, my brother Jimmy, has been working hard for us for 10 or 12 years. John's been there for probably 8 or 9 years, and they're both working very hard. And I didn't want to go into expansion, and I'm 70 years old now. Not that that's old, but I just felt that it was time for me to move on, and they want to add on to the building, and I didn't want to. I just don't need the headaches anymore. So I'm rounding third, heading for home, and I want to get rid of. I leased my first car because I don't want to own anything anymore. I'm living in my house, and that's the only thing I owe.
And are you hitting them straight?
I am.
One last question, I'll let you go, because I know you want to go out and hit them straight this afternoon. The weather's great out there. If you could do anything over again, would you do it differently?
Wow. No, I don't think so. I think that kids today, they've got to line up for something they want to do. And I had this line up through actually my parents, but I mean, when you go to a small business, you can learn that small business without going to college. You can learn, you can go to night schools, you can go to different areas, but for kids today, they're running off to these schools and they have no clue what they're doing. They have no clue why they're there. And I think that if people, I know people that started working at McDonald's back in the 60s, and right now they own 2 or 3 of them. But they never left McDonald's, and they never owned them when they worked there. But they worked hard, and the owners get old.
Sure.
So all of a sudden, here's these owners that are in their 60s and 70s looking at a kid that's 40, has been with them 20 years. Hey, how about you buying us something? So now he owns some McDonald's. So this is how you carry on businesses. And I think if people would just really enjoy something and go for it and stay with the program. That's what I think.
Mickey Hiatt, thanks for joining us.
Okay,
it's been a pleasure.
Okay.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
You're watching OCTV, Oxford Community Television, serving Oxford, Addison Township, and the village of Leonard.